I'd like to introduce Edwin Warfield, the publisher and editor of Citybiz.
Thanks, Bill. I'd really like to zero in on this recent acquisition and really have a better understanding of some of the synergies and why you thought this was sort of the perfect merger between Ventru and Think.
Absolutely. So we had been thinking about focusing our broader offering into the PE marketplace for some time. And it just so happened that about 12 years ago, I met Micah Bai and Jeff Musgrove for lunch one day and struck up a relationship with these two guys. Micah Bai is the former CIO and COO of Lake Mason, and Jeff was a part of Mike's team and really his right-hand man for many, many years, including after Mike left. Lake Mason, went to started his own company with Jeff, went to DST, and then ultimately Broadridge Communications. And so we stayed in touch for quite a long time. We would have an annual or every couple of twice a year call just to catch up. And Joe and I finished a call one day talking about how we're going to make this whole PE strategy work. And I get a call from Jeff, or I called Jeff. And it looked to me like Jeff was looking for his next adventure. And I began the process of just filling him in on how Think had developed over the last few years since we spoke. And what was shocking was what Jeff was about to go do was exactly what Joe and I had decided we were going to do as part of Think's continued growth and maturity. You want to talk a little bit about that, Jeff, where you were going?
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting, right? Because, the venture basis, right, really started from the venture capital side. So the idea was that you could build a services company that would be set up to provide those services into the venture capital portfolio. And if you think about it, venture capital and PE are very close, right? They both start with an investment in. So when I was coming on board to Ventru, the entire premise was to offer a set of services, which is actually very similar to what Think already had. So for us on the venture side, it was a very easy way to look at this as giving us the ability to build what we were going to build at Ventru on the existing Think infrastructure, which gave more value to clients quicker, I think, for both of us.
Well, and so you can imagine this telephone call. Jeff is telling me that. I'm telling him how we're focusing ourselves on PE. And I said, Jeff, we need a managing director for this group. Why don't we fold Ventru into Think, and you come on to do that role for us, and we'll grow this together. And, in sort of typical Tony Gruebl fashion, I just sort of threw this across the air, across the room, to see if anything would stick out of it. And the next morning, I got a very excited call from Micah Bai, who convinced me that we needed to do it. We needed to do it fast. We didn't want to make it too messy. And if we did it right, he thought it would be it create some tremendous synergies. So he gave me a deadline of 3 weeks to pull this purchase and integration together. And not knowing any better, I called the lawyers and I called the partners and I said, this is what I want to do. Let me get structuring. And September 1st, we all signed the ink, and Ventru became part of Think. Jeff came on to Think. We added Micah Bai as a shareholder, and his partner in Naples Technology Ventures, Brij Sharma, who was just another incredible added bonus to the deal. We added him as well as a shareholder. And even in the last just couple of months, the value that these folks have brought to Think is tremendous.
So can you give me a little more detail on the markets? Let's think, regionally, is it mostly Mid-Atlantic focused, and is it a national footprint, and what sort of level of private equity? Yeah, what markets are you focused on?
So I think this deal does multiple things for think, and the business that we were building going forward. When you think of the markets, what the VC market does for us, especially with what Naples Technology Ventures is looking at, is it takes us into the insurtech space, the fintech space, the health tech space. And what I mean by that is we're down and working with companies that truly are the disruptors. So I would say it enhances what we are already doing in those industries. And I think out of that, what it does is it allows us to expand our services. And what I mean by that is on the executive advisory side, Think had done a great job of starting to build out on the executive advisory side. I think with myself and the team coming over, we're able to expand those executive advisory offerings into more of the management consulting side of things. So looking at a company, helping them map a strategy to grow, thinking about how to go to markets, how do they think about partnerships. So it really adds that, helping those companies grow their business. And we as Think get to grow with those clients. And then the last piece I'll say about that is I also think what the partnership does is allows us to go after an opportunity that was a foundation, right? Which is on the M&A and PE side, that when you think about the life cycle, there's diligence, there's integration, and then there's optimization, right? And I have been a big believer that there is a gap to be filled by a firm like Think in that space as a trusted partner to the PE or VC firm who can go in and perform those critical functions for them. So they don't need to build it, right? We have the expertise. We have repeatable processes that are going to make them more efficient and then set us up to be able to offer all the other services that we're talking about. So when you think about the diligence, if you're involved in the diligence, it's going to make you better informed for the integration. And then if you are involved in the integration, as you're building that integration plan, you're going to be thinking of setting the foundation for optimization. So I think all of this put together gives us the opportunity to ultimately build a shared services organization that the PE firm or the VC firm can look at and say, these are our trusted partner. They will do these pieces. Why would every portfolio company, for instance, why would every portfolio company need a PMO office, right? Why can't you find these functions that can be done in a shared services model and then be able to provide that to drive efficiency and cost saves throughout the platform of portfolio companies and help drive the revenue and the gain investment that the VC and PE firms.
And I would add, Edwin, that the value prop here is that for any of these individual companies, in order to stand up operations, build a PMO, undertake agility transformation, set their North Star, they have to learn how to do that themselves without a firm like ours. With ours, we are mid-market focused, led by executives who have spent a career in the mid-market, working in with those kinds of executives who won't make the kinds of mistakes that solo operators make if they have to learn that along the way. So I think our value prop to a PE manager is, look, they get it done the best way first without having to repeat mistakes by a company who understands that in mid-market companies, sometimes culture trumps some level of decision making, and that needs to be addressed as well as part of the implementation.
Let's talk a little bit more about the team. Can you tell us about really the role that Mike Abai plays and Briz Sharma and Jeff Musgrove play in terms of filling out the team?
Yeah. So I love Mike. Spending 12 years getting to know Mike has been a real pleasure. He's always been very kind to me as a sort of a friend advisor as Think has developed. But I tell you what, when I needed a kick in the pants, Mike was there to do it. And I think Mike has a bit of a reputation for brutally honest conversations And so sometimes we need that. What Mike brings is those kinds of conversations at a level and with a broadness in market that somebody like me can really listen to, hear, and then integrate into our practice. So for me, Mike is an advisor. I think that for the firm, Mike knows a heck of a lot of people. I suspect that as Mike gets to know our deep operating model, it's likely that he'll tell his friends, and I think that's a great thing. And I think Bridge will do that as well. And that doesn't hurt, right?
And the last thing I'll say quickly is, the other thing that the partnership brings, right, is a level of transparency into the fund and the portfolio companies. I'm already working very closely with a number of portfolio companies, and I expect that to continue in terms of being part of the process with them, which really does go back to a point that you brought up earlier, Edwin, which is this is what's going to allow Think to go to a national level, away from the regional level. We are now working with the venture capital firm across all of their portfolio of investments, which will naturally be national, if not international.
So yeah, let's go a little further on how this partnership, I think you mentioned the foundation, InsurTech and MedTech. So yeah, let's talk about the vertical rollout as well as the sort of geographical rollout.
Yeah, I think, the vertical rollout is there, right? So, Think has a tremendous amount of experience across multiple verticals and multiple industries. So I think what we do is harness all that's been built here and think about how to apply that to the venture capital and PE firms that we're working with and the portfolio companies in the industries that they're in. So I think that's step number one. We're going to naturally be able to provide a core set of services based on what Think already has.
Well, it's interesting because we've never been vertically focused at Think. We are mostly challenge-based, and our operating team has a diversity of background and experience as well. So you'll see that, in any particular operator at Think, they might have a medical background, or they might have a publishing background, or something in the financial services space. It really varies. And what we've been able to do is sort of generalize that across the mid-market, and that's worked to our favor. Now, when we get to this point in time, it just happens that we've had hundreds of clients. And so now we feel like we've touched on many of the verticals that the PE companies and venture funds will be interested in specializing in. And I think we'll be able to make the case that having that experience plus our general body of knowledge is a good combination for them.
And I think the other piece that is really important is as we build out, one of the things that we're doing is bringing in that talent at the executive advisory level that spans numerous industries, numerous geographic locations. So we're setting ourselves up to really have a practice in executive advisory that becomes a critical part of the way we go to market and how we engage with these companies all over the country.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, sharing your vision on the Ventru and Think merger, and I look forward to seeing your national footprint expand over the United States. Thank you.
Thanks, Edwin.
Thank you.